Hello, welcome to week 4. This week's top scorer, Alex is Big Al Sr., thumping Drew's CMC returns 190.5 to 143.3. Alex was led by TJ Hawkinson with 42.9 points, Austin Eckler with 34.9, Tom Brady with 28.4, and Derrick Henry with 26.7. And then 4 other players scored at least 13 points: Adam Thielen, Tyler Lockett, Chris Boswell, and the Dallas defense. The 36 points that Jared Goff put up on your bench would have been a slight improvement over Tom Brady, but it didn't really matter. The only downside for your squad this week was the disappointment of Greg Dortch putting up only 2.1 points in your flex. For Drew, your best scoring player was riding the pine this week, opting to bench Josh Jacobs, who put up 37.5 points in the game versus Denver. In terms of your starters, you got 26.9 from Jamal Williams in the high-powered Detroit offense and 25.8 from Christian McCaffrey. Heck of a week for Detroit's offense, which remains number 1 in the league overall. Weak performances from you this week came from Brandon McManus, who put up 3.8 points and 5.5 points in Pittsburgh's defense. This loss has to hurt, as you were the second highest scoring team this week, but you lost to the top scorer overall. The loss hurts. It's still a loss in the long run, but the points that you put up, 145, will definitely help when it comes to tiebreakers later in the season. Week 4's biggest blowout game was Pope 2.0's Holy Trinity knocking off Chris's 2 men in a defense, 138.4 to 86.2, a 52-point margin of victory. Pope 2.0 got 32.6 points from Miles Sanders to lead the way, followed by 26.2 from Cooper Kupp and 21.1 from Justin Herbert. You got 16.2 from Cortland Sutton and double-digit games from Hayden Hurst, Khalil Herbert, and Dustin Hopkins. Opting to run out the double Herbert lineup this week for some extra fun.
Herbert!
Not the clip you were expecting to see there, huh? Unfortunately, you did only get 3.7 points before Javonte Williams went down for the season with an ACL tear. As you started 3 running backs this week and still had 11.6 points from Devin Singletary on your bench, you have enough options to handle the loss, but nothing really fills the gap of losing your number 1 back for the season. For Chris, you got 34 points from Justin Jefferson to lead the team in scoring, followed by 14.2 from New England's defense versus Green Bay, mostly thanks to that pick 6 that Rodgers threw. You also got 11.3 from Justin Tucker and 10.7 from Devin Duvernay. Unfortunately for you, the week started out on the wrong foot as you didn't get Alvin Kamara out of the lineup for the Sunday morning game in London, followed by Tua's back-breaking injury, which led to him getting just 2.4 points. And Allen Robinson put up 2.7 points on Monday night just because he's Allen Robinson, and that's what he does.
I hate everything I have. I really hate it.
You've been pushing all the buttons, but they've been all the wrong ones. You had the highest scoring bench this week with 74.5 points, mostly between Russell Wilson, Corey Davis, and Pat Freiermuth. You have high-scoring players, you just have to get them in at the right time. Unfortunately, it's not going to help with your opponent stopping your face in, as this is the 3rd straight week you've been on the receiving end of the biggest blowout loss. However, you are gaining ground. Week 2 was a 100-point loss. Week 3 was a 70-point loss. This week was only 50 points, so improvement. In Week 4's closest game, Brandon's blown call held on over Pope 1.0's Serenity Now, 103.7 to 103.36, a win by just 34 hundredths of a point. In terms of QB scoring, that's about 9 yards to decide this matchup.
Go the whole 9 yards?
This was quite the nail-biter, as the final points in this matchup were scored on the second-to-last play on Monday Night Football, but Pope came up just a little bit short. For Brandon, you were led by dual 23-point games from Nick Chubb and Patrick Mahomes, as well as double-digit games from the Chargers defense, Evan McPherson, and James Conner. You did have a goose egg with Zay Jones being in an active scratch at your starting wide receiver spot. The 15.3 points that Jerry Jeudy would have put up instead off of your bench would have easily sealed this matchup. But for now, you didn't need it. Right now, though, this matchup is so close that a stat correction on either team could swing the victory either way.
It's not going to happen to me.
For Pope 1.0, you got 22.1 points from San Francisco's defense, 21.7 from CeeDee Lamb, and 20.8 from Malcolm Brown. Losing by less than 0.4 of a point, you sure would have liked to have seen James Robinson, Terry McLaurin, or Mark Andrews actually have stepped up for more than 3.5 points per guy this week. Or, I guess you could have gotten Rashad Penny into your lineup, who was your highest scoring player, sitting on the bench with his 31.7 points. He was the 4th highest scoring running back this week and the 7th highest scoring offensive player overall. Jason's Yusuck McBain snuck past Aaron's Pickin' So Bad It Hurts, 90.1 to 80.1. This game featured the lowest scoring starting wide receiver who actually did play, compared to Zay Jones, who got a 0 in the lineup and was a healthy scratch. Being held out, getting a 0 is one thing, but if a guy actually played and just sucked, well, that's worth talking about at least. Jason was led by 23.5 points from Josh Allen, 17.5 from Aaron Jones, and you also got low double-digit games from Jamar Chase, Chase Edmonds, and Tyler Bass. You were the owner of the lowest scoring starting wide receiver in Amari Cooper, who actually managed to score some points, having 1.9 points on just one catch for 9 yards on 4 targets. DJ Moore would have been a better play for you as you left his 12.1 points on your bench. For Aaron, you got a trio of 16-point games from Jalen Hurts, Chris Olave, and Breece Hall. Speaking of those inactive players, you got killed by a pair of double-digit zeros by 2 active players, with DJ Dallas and Chase Claypool getting skunked. Claypool played, got a couple targets, and did absolutely nothing with them, so he is actually the lowest-scoring wide receiver who actually played. Then there's DJ Dallas, who somehow didn't actually exist in a game where his team scored 48 points. Literally, I cannot figure out what the heck happened with him in that game. He's not listed as having an injury, he wasn't listed as not playing, and he's normally a return guy for Seattle, so you figured he'd at least get a few return yards. 0 points from no return yards, no carries, no catches. At this point, when I wrote this, it was Monday night. I'm wondering if this is a bug in the Matrix and his score will eventually pop in.
Boy, that's a glitch in the universe.
Nope, it's Wednesday. There's no news on him. There's no write-up on him on Yahoo. He's got no injury news. I have no idea what happened to this dude in this game. From the lowest scoring wide receiver who actually played to the lowest scoring running back, my car smells like the pits knocked off Lee's unsolicited DAC picks, 122.5 to 104.7. I was led by 25.4 from T. Higgins, 24.2 from Travis Kelce, and Saquon Barkley with 24.2. Also got 18.4 from Philly's defense. Got a pair of 11-point games from Derek Carr and Young Hook Hoo. I did have a bad game from Tony Pollard, who put up 1.8 points in my running back spot, which was the lowest scoring running back this week that was actually starting and playing, and 2.3 points from Gabe Davis in my flex. Both of those players could have been proved on by getting Damian Harris's 15.4 points in, or Elijah Moore's 8.5 points. For Lee, you were led by 19.5 from Devontae Adams, 18.7 from Brandon Cooks, and 16.7 from Zach Ertz. You could have used the 17.1 that Gerald Everett put up on your bench, but that would have required you to either bench Ertz and only gain 1 extra points, or go full the balls to the walls and start 2 tight ends. His 17.1 points would have been an improvement over Garrett Wilson in your flex. Also, you could have picked up a couple extra points by getting Raheem Mostert in, but it wouldn't have been enough to impact the final score in this game. Tom's got a waddle after that deuce defeated Trent's Kool-Aid Man, a.k.a. Joe Burrow, by a score of 114.9 to 100.5. Tom was led by the power running back duo of Dameon Pierce with 28.9 points and Leonard Fournette with 18.4. Lamar Jackson, Romeo Doubs, Stephon Diggs, and Buffalo's defense all chipped in double-digit games as well. You didn't need the 22.3 points from J.K. Dobbins or the 13.9 that were on the bench by Isaiah McKenzie. That's a really good week from your bench overall as they combined for 55 points. For Trent, you were led by 28.9 points from Tyreek Hill, 20.1 points from Joe Burrow, and 14.5 from A.J. Brown. You suffered from the injury wave that wrecked the running back position this weekend, getting just 3.3 points from Jonathan Taylor before his injury. Looks like he's going to miss this week, but he should be fine by next week. At least that's the assumption. Detroit might have the best offense in the league, but I do believe it also has the worst defense in the league. The 48 points that Seattle put up led to a negative 3/4 of a point. And that includes a 2-point bonus for a fumble recovery. They had the lowest score by any defense this week, or for that matter, by any starting player, as they were the only negative score across the league at all starters.
-5 points. I'm doing my best.
Derek's Chicken Boners eased by Nick's Tebow Hannes, 133.5 to 101. Derek was led by 24.9 points from DK Metcalf, 22.9 from Kyler Murray, 22.4 from Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and 19 from Mike Williams. You also had a pair of 12-point games from Ramondre Stevenson and Dallas Goedert, and Delvin Cook putting up 10.6 points to round out the skill players all over 10 points. Jake Elliott and New Orleans only combined for 8.5 points for you. You had the optimal lineup into play this week, even with 2 double-digit scorers on your bench.
Pretty impressive.
Nick, the hits keep on coming, now dropping to 0-4. However, you did finally break 100 this week.
Real proud. Proud of all of you.
You were led by 30.3 points from Mike Evans, 17.4 from Joe Mixon, and 16.1 from Aaron Rodgers. After that, well, there's a couple of 9s and some 3s and some 4s. It wasn't real pretty. You could have picked up an extra single point by getting Robbie Anderson in for Deontay Johnson. It feels like better times are going to be coming for Johnson. Pickett looked like he actually had a decent arm. He just needs some reps to kind of dial in the speed of the NFL game. He certainly brought more energy than Mitch Trubisky to that Steelers offense and crowd. You had the worst score in terms of points scored by bench players, just getting 13.5 points from Jerick McKinnon, Darrell Henderson, and Robbie Anderson. A reminder to everyone that you can put guys who are listed as out into your IR spots. Saw a couple different people this week who opted to leave injured players on their bench. Not saying there's anything wrong with that, but just a reminder that the IR spots are there if you need them. This week's most expensive free agent player was Tyler Algier, who went to Drew for $17 over Brandon, Derek, and Trent. And then there were two defenses that were fought over, with me grabbing Jacksonville for $9 over Nick's $8 bid, and then Drew grabbing Denver over Trent. I didn't have any new wagers listed, and here's the current status of our four-way loser bet. It's currently a three-way tie with four wins across the three teams, and Pope 2.0 at 5 wins. That is it for Week 4. I will see you next week for Week 5's recap.